In this first lesson, we're going to get to know what makes up a sentence. This is known as the parts of speech. Now, I almost hesitated to make this the first lesson of the course because it goes into a lot of, some basic grammar concepts and doesn't really talk about how to fix mistakes, which is the intended purpose of this course. But we need to cover this material up front because it gives us a language to understand what makes up a sentence and therefore some of the things that can go wrong in constructing a sentence. So if this starts to seem tedious to you and kind of brings back traumatic memories of 8th grade grammar, just bear with me. You'll see how all this fits together, and it will be useful information as we learn the other rules in the course. So a sentence is kind of like a cake in that it has a few basic ingredients. A cake has flour, sugar, eggs, and water, and you can make a cake with that. The same thing with a sentence. It has just a few basic ingredients, but then you can add things to add flavor and variety, just like you can add things to a cake, like frosting and decorations to make it more interesting and have variety. So the ingredients of a sentence, the basic ingredients, are a subject and a verb. So the subject is a noun, and then you have a verb. The verb is the action, and the subject is the thing doing the action. So dogs run. Dogs is a noun, and run is a verb. That is a sentence. That is a complete sentence. Dogs run. Let's look at a variation. We're going to add some frosting and decoration, in a sense, to this basic sentence. Dogs run around whenever they are let off their leashes. So the core of the sentence is still dogs run. The fact that they run around and the fact that they don't have their leashes is just additional information. So in this lesson, we'll be covering the parts of speech, and there are 8 parts of speech that we're going to talk about. The first is verbs. The verb is the core of the sentence. It indicates action or a state of being. So if we have the sentence, the squirrel eats candy. Eats is the verb. That is the action in the sentence. That's what the squirrel is doing. Linking verbs act kind of like an equals sign. They indicate a state of being. So the squirrel seems nice. Squirrel, in this case, equals nice. The seems there is acting almost like an equals sign. Then we have the be verb. The squirrel is quiet. Is, again, functions like an equals sign. The squirrel equals quiet. Okay, the second part of speech are nouns. Nouns indicate people, places, things, ideas, and emotions. So, for example, carpenter, officer, lake, tree, boat, democracy, anger, happiness. Anger and happiness. I mean, these are emotions. Democracy is idea. Those are also nouns. Nouns that refer to specific things are called proper nouns. So it's not just any girl, it's Jennifer. It's not just any park, it's Yellowstone. Not just any boat, but Titanic. Not just any company, but Microsoft. These are proper nouns. Okay, third part of speech, pronouns. Pronouns help you avoid awkward repetition of the same noun. If we didn't have pronouns, a sentence could sound like this. I like my car when my car has just been washed because my car's bright red paint shines in the sun. So my car, my car, my car. That's tedious repetition. Pronouns stand in the place of nouns when it's understood what noun is referring to. So I like my car when it has just been washed because its bright red paint shines in the sun. Much less tedious. We don't have to keep repeating that noun. The pronoun stands in place there. There's personal pronouns, and you can just look at the list here to get an idea of what personal pronouns look like. These personal pronouns replace nouns referring to people. Demonstrative pronouns, relative pronouns, and indefinite pronouns. Now, you don't need to know that terminology or memorize these. This is just to give you a sense of what these words are like and how they function. Number 4, adjectives. Adjectives describe or modify nouns. If you think of a car that's been modified, it's been enhanced somehow, and that's what an adjective does to a noun. It modifies it. So it's not just a coat, it's the warm coat. It's the red car, the silly dog, obnoxious child. These are adjectives. And numbers, 7 cookies. It describes how many cookies. Okay, so we're halfway through. Stick with me here. Take a rest, take a deep breath. Enjoy this picture of a moose. Okay, clear your mind, and now we're ready to keep going. We're halfway through the parts of speech. Number 5, adverbs. Adverbs modify or describe verbs and adjectives and other verbs. So they function kind of like adjectives, but they're doing that same modification work with verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So adverbs answer these questions: how, when, where, how often, to what extent. So how, he ate slowly. When, soon. Where, we want to eat here. How often, let's eat frequently. To what extent, we will eat enough. It's not a foolproof way of detecting adverbs, but adverbs will often end in ly. Number 6, prepositions. Prepositions describe the position or the relationship between words and ideas in a sentence. Here are some common prepositions, and you don't have to memorize these, but just look over the list and get a feel for how these words indicate position or relation. So a prepositional phrase is when you have one of those prepositional words that I just showed plus a noun. So it's among the trees, into the car, during my lunch break, from my grandmother. Conjunctions. Conjunctions join, or you could think of conjoin, words or parts of a sentence. If you've heard the term conjoined twins, these are twins that are attached. And so this is what conjunctions do. They join two parts of a sentence. So there's coordinating conjunctions, and the acronym FANBOYS helps us remember these coordinating conjunctions. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. It's worth remembering those. These words are going to come up later with other rules. So that FANBOYS way of remembering these words is going to be helpful. Let's look at how they join two parts of a sentence. I hate snowboarding, but I love skiing. I have not seen the movie, so you are ruining it for me. These are two different sentences. I have not seen the movie could stand alone as a sentence. You are ruining it for me could stand alone. But the conjunction there stands there to join these two independent sentences. There's another kind of conjunction called subordinating conjunction. And here is a list of some common subordinating conjunctions. There's too many of these to memorize or think of a fun acronym, but go ahead and just look over the list, get a feel for what they look like. Again, they will be coming up again in lessons about commas, for example. This is how they work. I had to get a physical exam before I could play football. So before, you can see, joins those two parts of the sentence. I had to get a physical exam could stand alone as a complete sentence, and I could play football could stand alone. And the subordinating conjunction is in there to join these two parts. I cannot go swimming because I just ate a huge meal. When you begin a sentence with subordinating conjunction, you create what's called the dependent clause. And it's a perfectly acceptable way to start a sentence, but it will require a comma. So you could say, before I could play football, I had to get a physical exam. Because I just ate a huge meal, I cannot go swimming. We'll talk more about that in the chapter on commas, but this is just to give you an idea of the flexibility of these subordinating conjunctions. Interjections. There's not much to say about this. These are words like, hey, wow, ouch, great. These are just words that are interjected into sentences. And here are some examples of how they work. Hey, get over here. Great, the plans are coming together. Grammatically, there's not a lot to discuss about these. So in review, the parts of speech, we have the verb, noun, pronoun, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and last of all, interjections. These are the basic ingredients of the sentence. Having just a basic knowledge of these will help you understand a lot more in this course. And even if you were to completely skip this lesson, you could still make sense of the future lessons. But having this as a foundation will give you a great boost as we move into some of the basic rules. And you can practice identifying these parts of speech in the exercises included in the course. Or remember, if you want a hard copy, a printed copy, you like writing on paper, you can actually buy a physical copy of the workbook on Amazon.com.